Hello, I am Professor Anish Vora and I welcome you all in this video lecture. In this video lecture, we will study about design of field system for salient type of rotor construction. So we have taken one simple numerical and we have a data. So based on the data, we will be designing our field system. So following information have been obtained during the design of stator frame of 500 kVA, 6.6 kV, 12 pole, 500 RPM, star connected, 3 phase, Shellian pole alternator. So again I repeat that 500 kVA, 6.6 kV, 12 pole, 500 RPM, star connected, 3 phase Shellian pole alternator. We have been given additional data, that is a stator diameter at gap surface, that is 1.3 meter, and that is our D. So 1.3 meter. Gross length of the Shellian core, stator core, that is 0.21 meter, and that is our L. In case of Shellian pole type of rotor, we know that diameter is quite high, that is 1.3 meter, and the length is comparatively very low, and that is 0.21 meter. Gap flux per pole, that is 0.0404, that is the flux 5. So we need to calculate air gap length, diameter of the rotor gap surface, peripheral speed, pole dimension, that is length, width and height of the pole, and at last depth of the rotor core. So this much of data is given, and additional data if required we can assume suitable data. So with this data, let us start now designing work. So we start with air gap length. So once air gap length is available, then based on the air gap length we can have a diameter of the rotor. So first of all we have air gap length. So in case of air gap length, we know equation, that is ATG, that is 8 multiplied by 10 raised to 5 multiplied by BG multiplied by kg and multiplied by lg. Based on this equation we can easily calculate air gap length, and that is ATG divided by 8 multiplied by 10 raised to 5 multiplied by BG and multiplied by kg. So now let us see which data is available, and one by one we will find out another data. So ampere turns for the gap we need to find out. Kg we have to assume. So kg we can assume, and Bg, that is a gap flux density, that we need to calculate. So first we try to find out, that is a Bg. So gap flux density, we have an equation that average flux density divided by field form factor, then we have a Bg, that is the gap flux density, that is normally in Weber per meter square. So to use this equation, first we have to find out BAV, that is specific magnetic loading, and for specific magnetic loading we have equation, that is P5 divided by pi d and L. So if we substitute all the values, then we can have specific magnetic loading or average flux density. So now number of poles, that is 12, flux, that is given 0.0404 divided by pi, that is 3.14 multiplied by d is given 1.3 meter, and length is given 0.21 meter. So therefore BAV, that is specific magnetic loading, that is equal to now 12 multiplied by 0.0404 and divided by 3.14 divided by 1.3 divided by 0.21, then it comes to 0.5655. So we can take 0.56, that is Weber per meter square. So one of the quantity we have defined. So this is our average flux density. Now based on average flux density, we'll be able to calculate gap flux density or maximum flux density, and therefore BG, that is BAV divided by KF, where KF, that is a field form factor, and if it is not given we can assume a suitable value. So KF, where KF, that is a field form factor, and a suitable value, that is 0.7, it can be assumed. So if we assume 0.7, then we have 0.56 divided by 0.7, and therefore BG is equal to 0.56 divided by 0.7, and then it comes to 0.8. So it is 0.8. So another quantity also we have defined, and that is our gap flux density. Now let us proceed further. We have to keep this equation in mind. So one of the quantity we have defined, that is BG. Now Kg we have to assume. Kg, that is a gap contraction factor, and gap contraction factor we can assume a suitable value. Now we have to find out ampere turns for the gap. So to find the ampere turns for the gap, first we have to find out, that is ampere turns per armature. So let us find ampere turns for armature, and based on this value we will be able to calculate ampere turns for the field at no load, and then based on this value again we will be able to calculate ampere turns for the gap. So to find out ampere turns of the armature, we have an equation 2.7 multiplied by current per phase multiplied by turns per phase multiplied by kW and divided by number of poles. So again, in this equation, I phase we need to calculate, turns per phase we need to calculate, number of poles are given, and kW we have to assume. So kW, that is winding factor, kW, that is a winding factor, and it can be assumed, that is 0.955. So this is assumed. So we need to calculate I phase, that is current per phase, and turns per phase. So now let us start with another equation, that is EMF per phase, and we have an equation that is 4.44 multiplied by F multiplied by flux 5 multiplied by turns per phase and multiplied by kW. So all the values are given, and based on this equation, turns per phase, that is EMF per phase divided by 4.44 multiplied by F multiplied by flux 5 multiplied by kW. Now it is star connected because it is given that it is star connected, stator is star connected, and therefore E phase, that is voltage is given, that is 6.6 kV. So 6.6 kV, and divided by root 3. So 6.6 kV divided by root 3, that is 3.81. So it is 3.81 kV. So now we need to calculate turns per phase. So 3.81 multiplied by 10 raised to 3, because it is given in kV, divided by 4.44 multiplied by frequency, that is 50, flux, that is 0.0404, and kW we have assumed, that is 0.955. So therefore turns per phase, so 4.44 multiplied by 50 multiplied by 0.0404 multiplied by 0.955, so it comes to 3.81 multiplied by 10 raised to 3 and divided by 8.56. So 3.81 divided by 8.56 and multiplied by 10 raised to 3. So it comes to 445. So turns per phase, it is 445, or we can take a 446, and therefore turns per phase, that is 446. So one of the quantity again required to calculate ampere turns for the armature we have calculated, that is 446. Now the second quantity, that is the current per phase. So we need to calculate current per phase, and then we can able to calculate ampere turns for the armature. So current per phase, so now 500 kVA divided by root 3 and multiplied by VL, that is 6.6. So 500 divided by root 3 and divided by 6.6. So it comes to 43.79. 43.79 ampere. This is I phase. So another quantity required to calculate ampere turns of the armature we have identified, and therefore ampere turns for the armature. Again I write equation, that is 2.7 multiplied by I phase multiplied by T phase multiplied by kW and divided by P. Now we substitute all the values. 43.79, that is current. Turns per phase, that is 446 multiplied by 0.955, and number of poles, that is 12. So now let us calculate ampere turns for the armature. 2.7 multiplied by 43.79 multiplied by 446 multiplied by 0.955 divided by 12. So it comes to 4196 ampere. So based on this value, ampere turn for the armature, now we have another equation, and that is ampere turns for the field at no load, that is SCR multiplied by ampere turns for the armature. So again ampere turns for the armature we have identified, and that is 4196 ampere. For SCR, that is short circuit ratio, and SCR we have to assume. So SCR can be assumed a very appropriate value, and that is suppose we take 1.1. So SCR, that is short circuit ratio. So after assuming SCR 1.1 multiplied by 4196, so 80 F, that is ampere turns for the field at no load, then it comes to 4196 multiplied by 1.1, then it comes to 4616. So it comes to 4616 ampere. So we have now calculated ampere turns for the field. Now based on this value, we have relationship to find the ampere turns for the gap. So again we have to assume one relationship to calculate ampere turns for the gap. So and therefore ampere turns for the gap, that is it can be assumed 0.7 times 80 FO. So 0.7 multiplied by 4616, near about or close to any value we can assume. So 0.7 multiplied by 4616 and it comes to 3231. So 3231 ampere, and that is our ampere turns for the gap. So now we have the value available, that is ampere turn for the gap, and now we can use our equation, that is ampere turns for the gap, that is 8 multiplied by 10 raised to 5 multiplied by dg multiplied by kg and multiplied by lg, and therefore air gap length lg, that is ampere turns for the gap divided by 8 multiplied by 10 raised to 5 multiplied by dg and multiplied by kg. Now kg, that is a gap contraction factor, and it can be assumed a very suitable value. Suppose let us assume 1.15 kg. So all values we have, and therefore lg atg, that is 3231 divided by 8 multiplied by 10 raised to 5. dg we have calculated, and value of dg, that is 0.8 and multiplied by 1.15, that is gap contraction factor, and therefore lg. So it comes to 3231 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 5. So 8 multiplied by 0.8 multiplied by 1.15, so it is 7.36, and 3231 divided by 7.36, that is 438, and multiplied by 10 raised to minus 5, so it comes to 0.043. So therefore lg is equal to 0.043. Now we can proceed to our second part, that is a rotor diameter. So a rotor diameter. We know that rotor diameter, that is dr, that is diameter d, stator bore diameter, minus 2 times lg, then we have our rotor diameter. Stator diameter, that is given, and that is 1.3. If we calculate the rotor diameter, then 0.0043. So now rotor diameter, and therefore the rotor diameter is, so it comes to 1.19 meter. So this is our rotor diameter. So we have calculated our rotor diameter and it is 1.19. So now next part, that is peripheral speed. We have equation for peripheral speed, that is a VA, that is phi. Because our rotor is a rotating part, so in calculating peripheral speed we need to calculate first we need to calculate rotor diameter, so pi dr and ns. So synchronous speed in rps, that is given rpm, that is 500 rpm, and therefore synchronous speed in rps, that is 500 divided by 60. So it comes to 500 divided by 60 and it comes to 8.33. So 8.33 rps, revolution per second. So now we calculate our peripheral speed. So peripheral speed, that is 3.14 multiplied by 1.19 and multiplied by 8.33. So peripheral speed is now 3.14 multiplied by 1.19 and multiplied by 8.33. So 31.12 meter per second. So this is our peripheral speed. First we have calculated air gap length. Based on the air gap length we have calculated rotor diameter, and once rotor diameter is available we have calculated peripheral speed. So our next part, that is to calculate dimension of the pole. While calculating pole dimension, we need to calculate length, width and height of the pole. So our next, that is the dimension of pole. In dimension of the pole, we start with length of the pole. So length. While calculating the length of the pole, we should know that we have length of the stator core is available, and we leave 1 centimeter space. Suppose 1 centimeter space if we leave, then because our rotor can oscillate very properly, so that is the standard, that we leave 1 centimeter space, and then we have length of the pole, that is L minus 0.01 meter. 1 centimeter is 0.01 meter. So length is given, and length is 0.21 meter minus 0.01. So length of the pole, so 0.21 minus 0.01, and then it comes to 0.2. So 0.2 meter, that is length of the pole. Length of the pole. So length we have calculated. Now second part, that is width of the pole. So width. Now we know that if we consider a rectangular pole, right? So we have assumed a rectangular pole. In case of rectangular pole, we know that area of pole, that is length of the pole and multiplied by width of the pole. So that is width of the pole. So length we have calculated, so now we need to calculate area of the pole. To calculate area of the pole, we have an equation that is flux through the pole body and divided by flux density of the pole. Now at this stage we have to assume BP, that is a 1.5 Weber per meter square, that is a flux density we have assumed. And if we calculate flux per pole body, then we have area of the pole available. Now at this stage we have to again assume leakage flux or leakage coefficient. So leakage coefficient we can assume, and leakage coefficient, suppose we assume 15%, that is 1.15. So we know the equation that flux per pole or flux through the pole body, that is the leakage coefficient multiplied by useful flux. So it is a 1.15 and multiplied by flux is given, that is 0.0404. So flux through the pole body, that is now 1.15 multiplied by 0.0404, that is 0.04646, 0.04646 Weber. This is our flux through the pole. Now based on this value, we'll be able to calculate area of the pole, and therefore area of the pole, that is 0.04646 and divided by the flux density we have assumed, that is 1.5, and based on this value we have area of the pole, and that is 0.030 or 0.031. So it comes to 0.031, right, and that is meter square. So this is available. Now we can use this equation to calculate width of the pole. So again, and therefore AP, that is LP and multiplied by width of the pole, and therefore BP, that is width of the pole, that is AP divided by LP, and AP, that is 0.031 meter square, and LP, that is 0.2 meter, and therefore width is 0.031 divided by 0.2, that comes to 0.155. So 0.155 meter. So width of the pole we have now calculated. So length and width is very simple to calculate, but height of the pole, that is a bit difficult. So our next step, that is height of pole. Okay, now before we calculate height of the pole, we have to calculate the height of the field winding, because height of the pole depends on the height of field winding, and that is HF. So we have one equation to calculate the height of the field winding, and that is IFTF, that is full load field ampere turns divided by 10⁴, and we have DF, that is depth of the field winding, SF, that is space factor, and specific loss, that is QF. Now some of the parameters we can assume at this stage. Suppose the depth of the field winding, that can be assumed as any suitable value can be assumed, 0.4 meter suppose. Then space factor, suppose 0.7, and QF, that is normally 700 watt per meter square. So these values we can assume, or very close to these values can be assumed, and the height of the field winding can be calculated. Now again, one more relationship we have to find at this stage, that the ratio of IFTF to ampere turns for the armature, this ratio can be assumed as 1.8. This is purely we have to decide, right? And therefore IFTF, that is 1.8 times ampere turns for the armature. Now ampere turns for the armature we have initially we have calculated. So IFTF, that is 1.8 multiplied by 4196, and then it comes to 4196 multiplied by 1.8, that comes to 7552 or 7553. IFTF. So if we substitute now all these values, and IFTF will able to calculate the height of the field winding. So let us now calculate the height of the field winding. So, and therefore height of the field winding, that is IFTF, that is 7553 divided by 10 raised to 4. Now HF, DF, that is 0.04 multiplied by 0.7 multiplied by 700. So now if we calculate this value multiplied by 10 raised to minus 4, and suppose, so it comes to 4.42, and 7553 divided by 4.42, it comes to 1708 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 4. So ultimately it comes to if we divide by 10 raised to minus 4, then it comes to 0.17. So it comes to 0.17 meter HF. So height of the field winding we have calculated, and once height of the field winding is available, based on height of the field winding we can able to calculate height of the pole, and therefore height of pole, that is height of the field winding, plus we require some space for pole shoes plus insulation. So if we as a whole, if we take 0.04 meter, then we have total height of the pole. So it is 0.17 plus 0.04. Okay. So 0.7 plus 0.04, so it comes to 0.21. So 0.21 meter, that is the height of the pole. So ultimately we have calculated dimension of the pole, that is length, width and height. Length and width are simple to calculate, but to calculate the height of the pole, first we need to calculate the height of the field winding, and we have one very simple equation, but some of the values we have to choose we have to select a very appropriate value. And if it is not ultimately based on this value, we can calculate our temperature rise, and if temperature rise is not within a limit, then we have to recalculate all the values, and whatever value we have assumed, that we need to change. Now at last we have depth of the core. So depth of the core. Now again, to calculate depth of the core, we need to have area of the yoke or area of the core, that is Ly, that is the length of the yoke, and depth of the yoke. So Ly, that is length of the yoke, and length of the yoke we normally assume that is equal to the length of the stator core, and that is equal to 0.21 meter. Length is given, and the length of the yoke or length of the core we normally take as equal to the length of the core. So based on this equation, we are interested in calculating depth of the yoke. So area of the yoke divided by length of the yoke. So what we need to do is we need to calculate area of the yoke, and to calculate area, again we use a similar equation, that we require flux 5 and divided by flux density of the yoke. Now flux density of the yoke we have to assume, see, a lot of parameters we have assumed, because it is not given in the specification, or it is not given in the given data of the numerical. So that is why we have to assume lot of values. Suppose the flux density we can assume as 1.1 Weber per meter square. So we need to calculate flux passing through the yoke. So now let us calculate flux passing through the yoke. So it is a 1/2, and flux passing through the pole, so it is a 0.04. Now again I will to check that flux through the pole 4646, 0.04646. So it comes to 0.04646 divided by 2. So it comes to 0.02323. So 0.02323. So now using this equation, we'll be able to calculate area of the yoke, that is a 0.02323, and divided by flux density we have assumed as a 1.1, and therefore area of the yoke, that is a 0.02323 divided by 1.1, then it comes to 0.021 meter square. So 0.021 meter square. Once area is available, using this equation we'll be able to calculate the depth of the yoke, and therefore depth of the yoke, that is the area of the yoke divided by length of the yoke, and area of the yoke 0.021 and divided by 0.21. So depth of the core 0.021 divided by 0.21, so it comes to 0.1 meter. So depth of the rotor core, that comes to 0.1 meter. So this way we have calculated all the required values. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that from this single numerical, a lot of design parameters you have understand. Thank you for watching this video. Keep watching. Thank you very much.